how inflammation quietly destroys your brain for most people. Brain decline doesn't begin with a stroke, or Alzheimer's, or some dramatic medical emergency. It begins silently, a little brain fog in the morning, forgetting names, losing focus mid-conversation, feeling mentally exhausted after doing almost nothing. And while most people blame stress, age, or being busy, scientists are discovering something far more disturbing. Your brain may be under attack by chronic inflammation every single day. And according to researchers at institutions like Harvard University and Mayo Clinic, this invisible inflammation is now being linked to memory loss, depression, cognitive decline, and even accelerated aging of the brain itself. The terrifying part: the foods, habits, and daily routines causing it are completely normal to modern life. And in this video, we uncover how inflammation quietly destroys the human brain and the emerging science that may help stop it before it's too late. What makes inflammation so dangerous is that you usually can't feel it happening. There's no alarm, no sharp pain, no warning signs screaming that your brain is slowly changing beneath the surface. But inside the human body, inflammation is one of the most powerful biological forces on Earth. In small amounts, it keeps you alive. It's the immune system's emergency response, designed to destroy viruses, heal wounds, and protect your cells from threats. The problem begins when that emergency mode never turns off. Modern science now calls this condition chronic low-grade inflammation. And according to growing research from institutions like National Institute on Aging, it may be one of the biggest hidden drivers of cognitive decline in the modern world. Researchers have even coined a term for it, inflammaging, because as inflammation spreads silently through the body over years, the brain becomes one of its primary targets. And this changes everything. For decades, scientists believed diseases like Alzheimer's were mostly genetic, something hidden in your DNA, impossible to stop. But newer research suggests inflammation may play a much larger role than anyone expected. Inside the brain, immune cells called microglia act like microscopic security guards. Their job is to attack infections and clean damaged cells. But when chronic inflammation keeps activating these cells non-stop, they begin damaging healthy brain tissue too. Imagine firefighters flooding a building long after the fire is gone. That's what chronic inflammation does inside your brain. Over time, these overactivated immune responses are associated with memory loss, slower processing speed, anxiety, and depression, brain fog, reduced neuroplasticity, and increased risk of neurodegenerative disease. And the most disturbing part, many of the triggers fueling this inflammation have become completely normalized. Ultra-processed foods, sleep deprivation, chronic stress, constant blue light exposure, sedentary lifestyles, air pollution, excess sugar, even loneliness. The modern environment is quietly creating the perfect neurological storm. In fact, some researchers now compare chronic inflammation to smoking in the 1960s, a widespread invisible threat people underestimated for decades before realizing the damage it was causing. And the effects can begin far earlier than most people think. A study published in the journal Neurology found that elevated inflammatory markers during midlife were associated with smaller brain volume years later. Smaller brain volume means accelerated brain aging, not when you're 80, when you're still relatively young. That means the mental exhaustion many people experience daily may not just be normal adulthood. It may be early biological stress accumulating in the brain itself. And this is where the story becomes darker, because inflammation doesn't only affect memory, it can affect identity. Researchers studying depression have found strong links between inflammatory activity and mood disorders. Some scientists even describe certain forms of depression as partly inflammatory conditions, where the immune system itself begins influencing emotion, motivation, and cognition. In other words, the state of your immune system may partially shape the way you experience reality. Now combine that with the average modern lifestyle, highly processed diets, chronic stress, hormones, reduced sleep quality, endless dopamine, overstimulation from phones and social media, and suddenly the brain is trapped in a near-constant survival state. This is why biohackers, neuroscientists, and longevity researchers are becoming obsessed with inflammation control, not because they want to live forever, but because they understand something most people don't. The quality of your future mind is being shaped right now. by your daily biology. And some of the world's most extreme longevity experiments are already trying to fight back against this process. One of the most famous examples is Brian Johnson, the tech entrepreneur spending millions of dollars tracking hundreds of biomarkers. In an attempt to slow biological aging, his team monitors sleep, inflammation, glucose levels, recovery, brain performance, and cellular health with obsessive precision. Because the new frontier of longevity science isn't just about extending lifespan anymore. It's about protecting cognition, protecting memory, protecting consciousness itself. And now, artificial intelligence is entering the equation in ways that sound almost dystopian. AI systems can already analyze massive biological datasets faster than humans ever could, detecting hidden inflammatory patterns, predicting disease risk, and identifying physiological changes years before symptoms appear. Some researchers believe AI-driven medicine could eventually predict cognitive decline before a patient even notices anything is wrong, which raises a terrifying question. If inflammation can quietly destroy the brain for years before symptoms appear, how many people are already losing the battle without realizing it? This is where the story stops being about fear and starts becoming about control. Because despite how destructive chronic inflammation can be, researchers are also discovering something hopeful. The brain is far more adaptable than we once believed. For years, scientists thought the adult brain was mostly fixed, that cognitive decline was inevitable, permanent, and irreversible. But modern neuroscience has challenged that assumption completely. The brain can change. It can rewire itself. It can recover under the right biological conditions. And one of the biggest factors influencing that recovery is inflammation reduction. This is why nearly every serious longevity protocol now focuses on calming the body's inflammatory response before anything else, not through miracle supplements or sci-fi experiments, but through foundational biological interventions backed by growing evidence. Selenium, for example, may be one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory tools humans have. During deep sleep, the brain activates a waste-clearing system known as the glymphatic system, essentially flushing out metabolic debris and toxic proteins linked to neurodegeneration. When sleep quality collapses, that cleanup process becomes less effective. Then there's nutrition. Multiple studies on Mediterranean-style diets rich in omega-3 fats, vegetables, berries, olive oil, and minimally processed foods have shown associations with better cognitive health and lower inflammatory markers. On the other hand, diets high in ultra-processed foods and refined sugar appear repeatedly in studies connected to systemic inflammation and impaired brain function. Movement matters too. Regular exercise doesn't just strengthen muscles, it changes brain chemistry. Physical activity has been shown to increase blood flow to the brain, support neuroplasticity, and reduce inflammatory signaling over time. Even stress itself has become a biological battlefield. Chronic cortisol exposure, triggered by non-stop stress, fear, overstimulation, and digital overload, can amplify inflammatory activity throughout the body, which is why practices like meditation, controlled breathing, time in nature, and even reducing constant screen exposure are no longer viewed as wellness trends by many researchers. They're becoming neurological protection strategies, and now AI is accelerating this entire field. Wearables, biometric tracking, glucose monitors, sleep analysis systems, and AI-powered health platforms are allowing people to monitor their biology in real time, identifying patterns that previous generations could never see. For the first time in human history, people can detect early warning signs before catastrophic decline appears. But there's also a darker truth hidden underneath all of this. The modern world profits from distraction, from overstimulation, from addiction, from exhaustion, from unhealthy consumption patterns that quietly damage the human brain over decades. And most people will never realize what's happening until the symptoms become impossible to ignore. That's why understanding inflammation may become one of the most important survival advantages of the future. Because protecting your brain isn't just about living longer. It's about protecting your focus, your memory, your emotions, your identity, the very thing that makes you, you. And maybe the scariest part of all is this: the war for your brain was never coming in the future. It's already happening. So if this video changed the way you think about your mind, leave a comment with the one habit you think is secretly damaging people the most. And if you want more science-backed stories about AI, biohacking, longevity, and the hidden forces shaping human biology, subscribe and join us in the next